Hi, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Friday again, and I thought I would share some thoughts with you. I might title this video talking about my generation, and with a subtitle of A Complete Unknown, because last night my wife and I went to see the movie The Complete Unknown, which is the what they call a biopic about Bob Dylan, and I'll come back to that in a minute. I decided that you might be able to hear something playing in the background, but I decided when I was going through some of my record collection the other day and starting to play some of them and starting to digitise some of them. I've already done that over the years anyway, but I realised that even though this YouTube channel has been predominantly about photography, I have way more collections of music, vinyl LPs, cassettes, CDs, tapes, than I have cameras. And I probably know a lot more about them than I do about cameras. And it's interesting because I have a huge collection. I've got over 1,000 LPs here and lots of 45s and extended plays and all that sort of stuff. But one of the reasons why I've got such a huge collection, I started collecting when I was in the when I was a teenager and still in high school, I think. But when I used to do my wedding photography, there is a tie-up between the photography and my music, because when I used to do my wedding photography, and I go out to a film lab out the other side of town at McGill, and there was actually to put my films in for processing. And fortunately for them, and maybe unfortunately for me, or maybe fortunately for me, there was a record shop that sold records, lots of second-hand records, right next to the film lab. So I would go in there and deposit my films, and then I'd go into the record shop and come back with a few records. So there's a huge collection here. I'll just give you a quick glimpse at some of the things that are here. And I want to progressively talk about some of this music over the years. You know, there's things like Crash Craddock, who was going to be the replacement for Elvis when Elvis went into the army. Songs of the protest era, all sorts of those wonderful protest songs. A girl called Dusty. I saw Dusty Springfield live in Adelaide. And one of my favourites, Nancy Sinatra, These Boots Are Made for Walking. And Manfred Mann. Who can forget Manfred Mann and Doo-Wah Diddy Diddy? And then more recently, along came Stevie Wonder. I remember him as a 13-year-old singing Fingertips and playing the harmonica. And so there's a huge collection here. And and I have talked about this on my blog once before. I'll put a link underneath to that, where I had a series of talks about talking about my generation on my blog. So I'll put a link to one of my original ones where I posted about the music that I was listening to and some of my favourite music back then. So that'll give you a bit of a preamble to things to come over the weeks on this music venue. Anyway, in the background, you can hear, and I'll just turn it up a little bit. That's Tina Lawton. Tina Lawton was an Australian folk singer. I'll tell you a little bit more about her in a minute. And unfortunately, she was tragically killed in a plane crash when she was quite young. I'll just turn it down now because I don't know what sort of copyright is involved there. Anyway, so I'm going to share a few things about the movie that we saw, the Complete Unknown last night, the biopic about Bob Dylan. And the reason we went to see it, and we saw it for free, it didn't cost us anything, is because my son works in the movie industry for Rising Sun Pictures, which is based here in Adelaide. And Rising Sun did the special effects in this movie, as they've done in lots of movies over the years. My son didn't work on this particular one. I think he did work on the recent Sonic 3 one, which they also helped out with that. And but we were guests of Rising Sun, so it was staff and family were allowed to go along, and we saw the Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan movie, last night, and it was really good. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. So just getting back to Tina Lawton, she where are we? I thought I had some stuff written down about her. She was a wonderful folk singer, And back in the day, back in the 1960s, it was the 50s were just finishing with Elvis, and then along came the folk music, and then we had the surf music, and the rock and roll was getting bigger and bigger, and the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and Peter, Paul and Mary, all those people. And the folk scene was very big in Adelaide back in the early 60s, before all of the other stuff started happening. And we used to go along to different folk venues in Adelaide, where someone would be sitting in a little coffee shop, or a little cave underneath the ground. There was, in fact, I prepared a list of them here somewhere afterwards, of the different places where all this was happening. Oh, did I find that there? No, I haven't. Anyway, so I remember going to a place called the Purple Cow in Adelaide, and that was a real dive. You walked downstairs and it was a very sparse little place, and people were sitting around on boxes, and someone would be playing a guitar and people would be watching. And it was dimly lit, candles and things, I think. And there were lots more sophisticated venues than that. But the folk scene in Adelaide was a very big scene, and Tina Lawton was certainly at the forefront of that. Beautiful voice. As good as any of the overseas singers, including, in my opinion, including Joan Baez and Mary Travis and all those people. Anyway, let's get back to the movie. It was a brilliant acting and singing. All you can look at the reviews on this on YouTube, of course. There's lots of reviews and interviews with people, the cast and how they did it. But the cast who had singing roles, they actually were not professional singers, as far as I know, but they trained themselves how to play the instruments and how to sing the songs, and their rendition interpretation of this music is fantastic, really. And you would listen side by side to the originals, and you probably would be hard pressed to tell the difference. And some of them, so they were amazing. Whether this will win Academy Awards, I think people are suggesting it will. I don't think it's quite in the same as good as Bohemian Rhapsody, which won an Academy Award for Rami Malek, and as the best actor. This young man in this movie is certainly very good, and he's a very good actor. And who knows, he may bring that off, as are the other two young ladies that are in it as well. They're very good. And the man who plays Pete Seeger is very good in this as well. So I don't know how well it will go. It seems to, these sort of movies, these biopics like this, I Walk the Line, Johnny Cash, I think the guy who made this movie did that one, was the producer or director of that one. And they seem to follow a pretty, almost a formula for this type of music about singers and performers. And but that's okay. I mean, it was still very entertaining. And it only been going about 2 minutes, and it took me right back to that era when I was a younger teenager or early young adult back in the 60s. And I was transported back there instantly by this music and by this movie, and by recognising, you know, there wasn't hardly any songs that they played that I didn't know. And it was just really a wonderful night. We'll go and see it again. I don't know whether we'll see it as many times as we went and saw Bohemian Rhapsody. My wife was a Queen fan before that, but I wasn't, but certainly became one afterwards. But we saw that several times. I don't know whether we'll do that with this one, but we might, who knows. Anyway, what else can I say about it? There are some inaccuracies. You know, it struck me as we were watching the movie that I thought, I wonder how much of this is actually based on facts. And I've looked at a few YouTube videos since last night and before last night, and found out that some of the actual events in the movie are not accurate for timing and actual things that happened. And but you get that. You've got to have some poetic license when you're putting together a movie or a story. And so there are some inaccuracies in it. And but apart from that, it's a wonderful movie and worth watching. The only problem we had with it a little bit was the sound. In the theatre we were in, we had trouble picking up some of the words of the dialogue that they were saying. But when you watch some of those clips on my iMac here, they're quite clear, but we had a little bit of trouble listening to the sound in the theatre. So that's probably for the theatre people to think about. And but it was a great experience. So where do I go with this? I think look at the things I've put underneath. I'm going to be doing more videos in the future about my music collection. My wife and I actually, we're very involved in music. She's a pianist, although that's not her day job. She's still working. We're quite old, but she's still working. I'm retired for many years. But we regularly do voluntary work in a nursing home, and we play, we do sing-alongs with the residents. And quite a few of them have dementia, of course. And we have songbooks that we sing out of, and my wife plays the piano, and she's very good at it. And I just say, I don't play any instruments, I just say my wife plays the piano and I play the fool. And so I conduct the singing and lead them, and we have a wonderful time. It's becoming more and more popular over the years, particularly this last 6 months or so. And even some of the staff join in with the singing now, and we've got songbooks that we hand out to everyone. And so we're very involved in music and love all sorts of music. We go to lots of musicals and things like that. I've reviewed some of the musicals we've been to and operas on my blog in the past. So anyway, stay tuned. That's a little bit about A Complete Unknown, Bob Dylan. And there is a story that I don't know whether it's true or not, but I'm going to repeat it here now, which is an interesting story. When I was in the nursing home, I actually, when we were conducting one of these singing sessions one day, this is probably about 3 or 4 years ago now, there was a man in there in a wheelchair, and he couldn't speak properly. I think he'd had a stroke. But anyway, I got to talking to him after we did the sing-along and asked him about music and everything. And it transpired that he had actually had 2 claims to fame. He was, back in the day, some years back, there were a lot of ads for a local furniture store and carpet store, and he featured just about every night on television as the man presenting the ads, wearing a red coat. And he had a huge following, and he was very popular, and he told me that he did that for many years. Told me his name, I forgot, it was Brett or Brent, I think it is. I can't remember exactly what his name was. He had his own YouTube channel, but I've lost the link to that. But anyway, he was also, I've asked him if he was into music, and he said, yes, I was in a band back then in the day. This is back in the 60s, and it was quite a successful band. I looked it up, and it was all very true what he was telling me. And they backed several overseas acts, and I think he told me. I'm trying to verify this by chasing it down, because I had it all, he had his own version of what happened back in the day when he was in the band and what they did and where they played and all that sort of stuff. And he told me that they supported Bob Dylan when he came to Adelaide. Now, I think this is true, but I might be totally wrong. But it was somebody, as the ilk of Bob Dylan, and I think it was Bob Dylan. But anyway, and they supported him, their band. And he said after the show, Bob Dylan gave him one of his harmonicas. Now, I looked up on the internet, did Bob Dylan ever give away one of his harmonicas? Because I thought that might track it down. But someone said, no, he never gave any of his harmonicas away. But I think he might have in Adelaide. Anyway, the story goes, as Brett told me, he said, this is from memory, he said, I went down to Glenelg, which is not far from here, one night, late at night after a show that he'd been playing in, and he was very hungry and he didn't have any money. And anyway, he had this harmonica that Bob Dylan had given him. So he went into a hamburger place and said, I haven't got any money, but I really desperately need a hamburger. Would you like this? And he gave the people in the shop Bob Dylan's harmonica. So if there's anyone out there that knows about this, please confirm in the notes, in the comments underneath. So I'll sign off at this point. Say thanks for watching. Like if you like, subscribe if you wish. There'll be more coming about my music collection and talking about music, pop music and operas and all sorts of stuff, because we have a huge collection here. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. See you later.